Welcome to Postgame Live on Channel BSR. We're here to talk about another Orioles win. I'm Jake English from the Bird's Eye View podcast, and I'm here with Zach Wilt, of Baltimore Sports Report. Zach, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Just a nice, quick Orioles victory. Happy to join you here on Postgame Live. I can't complain. Why am I complaining? 4-1, nothing to complain about. Magic numbers shrinking, AL East lead increasing. Sorry, I'll stop whining.
And third place Yankees.
Yeah, I saw you tweeted that. Third place. How about that?
Yeah,
Wow,
that warms my heart. There may not be a good reason for it, but it warms my heart. First, before we dive into the game, let's talk about the magic number since you brought it up. You and I have some beef with some of the things going on tonight. Masson tweeted out the magic number had decreased to number 9, and they didn't do it right.
Yeah, David Lowe as the number 9. Now, I get it. I know he's on the active roster as the guy that's wearing it, but you're telling me Brady Anderson is not wearing a uniform right now, right this very second? Come on, right. He's number 9, and I know Brady's wearing a uniform because we've all seen the pictures, at least, like I'm exaggerating, but at least from spring training, right, Jake, of him still wearing number 9. And by the way, Brady looks pretty good for a guy who's, 50 or so. It looks like he can get out there and maybe put up the type of numbers Lowe's putting up. So, Brady, not Lowe. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, first of all, I think both of mine do the same kind of numbers that David Lowe is doing this season. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't Brady Anderson come out on opening day wearing his number 9?
Yeah, you bet he uniform? Did. Yeah. The only front office guy in baseball running out in a uniform on opening day. I don't care, whatever.
He can get away with it. Let him do it.
Definitely.
All right, so we played the Boston Red Sox tonight, who, they're scuffling. Let's put it that way. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs. They're holding up the cellar in the AL East. Well, it's good to be the king, isn't it?
It is very, very good to be the king. Yeah, these games have a very odd feel. I mean, again, as we get later in September and the Orioles lead increases and they play teams like the Red Sox, who were the World Series champions and are no longer in it, I'm just not used to being in this spot as an Oriole fan. It's really, really strange. Don't get me wrong, I'm loving every second of it, but just sort of a weird feeling as we inch closer and closer to fall.
Well, if you're new to the post-game show, this is how we do it. We talk a little bit up front, then we break down our highlights and lowlights of the game. We get into the offense, the defense, and also the pitching and what we saw there, and then we try to get you out of here without any mention of the Mars ads. Before we do that, I want to make sure we do take a perusal through the box score, so if you'll indulge us, we're going to go ahead and do that. The Orioles did a lot of their work early in the game, scoring 2 runs both in the first as well as the third. They were shut out thereafter, and the Red Sox lone run came in a home run in the 4th inning. From the Orioles side, you had a little bit of offense from some guy named Deaza. He might have been important. A pair of home runs as well as a double. Adam Jones added a home run. And
hold on, Jake. Hold on. Adam Jones added a home run. No. Adam Jones added a monster home run. 429 feet out of Fenway Park. Let's make sure we do it justice here tonight.
Well, I did check the rule book, and it only counts as in run, despite the distance.
Should be more than that. For if you saw how hard he hit it, that should be at least 3 runs in my opinion.
It was, as I put on Twitter tonight, a Baltimore home run.
Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
No, that's fine. That's fine. On the Red Sox side of things, a little quieter. They spread 8 hits throughout the 9 innings. You had 1 from Betts, 2 from Nava. You had 2 hits from Bogaerts, including that monstrous home run of his own. 2 from Rivero, and 1 from our old friend Jemile Weeks. But the key stat offensively for the Red Sox, I think, is David Ortiz with the big donut, which we'll talk a little bit about later. So that having been the case, the pitching on the other side, we got 5 innings from Tillman, and then the bullpen proceeded as follows. You had Meek for 1.2 innings. Andrew Miller gave us 2/3 of an inning. Brad Brock 2/3 of an inning, and Zach Britton came in for the save with a full inning. Over on the Red Sox side, you had Renato, who got batted around, 3.1 innings, and their bullpen proceeded as follows. You had Drake Britton with an inning and 2/3. You had Badenhop with an inning, and Barnes with 3 innings, kind of in not mop-up duty, but the game was really not as close as it perhaps could have been. So, Zach, with that having been said, what was your highlight for this game?
I got to go with Alejandro Diaz this night, and I penciled that in after he hit 2 home runs. It was his first career multi-home run game, and Adam Jones quickly followed his second with the one that I mentioned when I so rudely cut you off. But he had the 2 home runs. Seemed like he just missed the third, adding the double, and this was a guy who, when he was acquired, Dan Duquette said, yeah, the power number is not quite there from what we saw from him last year, but we believe it's going to come back. He's a guy that is under control for one more season, and if the Orioles part ways with Nelson Cruz, even if they bring Nelson Cruz back, could be the starting left fielder on this club. Very encouraging signs from him. 3 for 4, pair of home runs, 3 RBI, and a walk. I loved everything I saw from him.
Now, let me get this straight. You penciled him in after he hit his second home run of the evening?
I penciled him in, yeah, because there were still some other highlight to go with, but when he added the double, he was definitely my guy. Your highlight's pretty good too. I could have erased it and stole your highlight if not for that double.
I wasn't really sure where to go with this. I ended up going with David Ortiz's double play to end the inning when the Red Sox were really doing their only threatening of the game. Or should it have been his strikeout? Or should it have been his other strikeout? No, I'm definitely going to go with his double play to end the inning.
That's a good one.
Nothing makes me happier than seeing David Ortiz look foolish, and he did in this game, especially with his history with beating my Orioles. So that is definitely the highlight of the game for me.
Yeah, and I think that's a good one. So that's why it was pencil and not pen. But what about a low light for you though, Jake?
The low light for me has to be the pace of game with the Red Sox. This is not a competitive game, and what I mean by that is this game didn't mean anything for the Red Sox, and I know they try to win every game they play, but it didn't have that September pre-postseason feel. I'm not sure why this game had to drag on the way it did. I know that sometimes with the extended rosters you can have substitutions and pitching changes, which can extend things a little bit. But we didn't have a crazy game with replays or challenges or anything of that nature. It's just time slows down in Boston.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Yeah, I was messing with you off the top of the show about that. These games always seem long when they're in Fenway Park. For me, I went with, and it's hard because it's a nice 4-1 win. I know everybody's feeling good, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more pitch, Chris Tillman be a little bit more pitch efficient. 108 pitches in just 5 innings, only 6 hits, a pair of walks, but as we roll along deeper into September, you sort of want to start seeing the guy who's atop that rotation kind of separate himself, be the true number one that the Orioles are going to need in the postseason. We've seen guys Miguel Gonzalez has really up. We've seen Wei-Yin Chen pitch really well this year. I want to continue to see that from Tillman. Not a bad start by any means, but 108 pitches in 5 innings, I want to see him be a little bit more efficient than that.
Yeah, you mentioned it, but if only he could learn a few from our ace, Miguel Gonzalez. I mean, that would be a nice thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, you've led us there. Let's go ahead and come back to the pitching in just a little bit. Let's start with the offense. Now, you had mentioned Diaz's night. This was kind of a coming out, fans are concerned, is it not?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, I think this is really, for me at least, having watched the guy since he's been acquired, this is really the first time we started to see those things that Dan Duquette had mentioned. Kind of a guy who was having a down year. I mentioned the power not really being there, despite him showing it last year. So this is a really, really encouraging sign for me, and I know we should really kind of be focused on the way this team's going to look the rest of the month and into October, but I can't help but think a little bit about the future with this guy too, with him being under control next season as well.
Sure, I can't tell if that's because you're looking at this the right way or because as Oriole fans we've been conditioned to just worry about next year, look forward to next year. But I will certainly agree with you. You mentioned at the top, Adam Jones vaporized a baseball. He destroyed it. He sent it to another dimension. It was really good to see. This is his 4th consecutive 25 home run season, which is a first for an Orioles outfielder. Adam Jones, for as tough as it is to watch him at certain times, those balls in the dirt, the low and away slider, he is having himself a heck of a season.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and this is, again, one of those kind of milestone numbers. I'm sure 25 is, sort of one of those boxes these guys check off. Mm-hmm. He might not know, that he's the first Orioles outfielder to have this stat, whatever, but getting to that point is always tough. So to see him do that in such grand fashion tonight is really impressive. And coming from a guy who just destroyed a slow-pitch softball last night, I can tell you that Jones absolutely crushed that one tonight, so it was fun to see.
The two accomplishments are incredibly similar.
Yeah, absolutely. A very, very competitive league that I'm in, Jake. Very competitive.
I'm sure. I had a very similar experience in Little League once, and it was defining as a person.
So you know exactly how Jones is feeling, right?
No, I was a terrible Little League player. No, not at all. All right, speaking of terrible, we got the good and the bad from Chris Davis tonight. Did not look good with the swings he took. He had some Ks, but he did get an infield hit against the shift, and whether it be skill or luck, I'll take it.
How about that? If he's putting the ball in play the opposite way, I'm going to go with luck in that case. I'm sorry, it's skill in that case. I'm not going to take anything away from him. Anytime he can, maybe it was lucky because he didn't hit it quite hard enough to justify it. Chris Davis getting an infield single is always rare. But if he's going to put the ball in play the opposite way, I'm going to be encouraged by this. But you're right, 3 Ks. It's hard to be overly excited about the night considering the one hit was in the infield.
The last thing that I had for the offense was this. The Orioles went quiet from the 4th inning after they finished their scoring until the 8th when Steve Pearce hit what I believe was a double, may have been a single. But does that concern you at all, the fact that they just kind of went to sleep, or do you think it was a fact of the Red Sox changed gears there with pitchers on them and they just took a while to adjust?
Probably a combination of both. I mean, honestly, moving after the fact that it doesn't really surprise me to see the Orioles offense react in this way, but the pitching changes could contribute to that as well. I'm certainly not accusing anybody of kind of, relaxing when they jumped out to a 4-0 lead here, but I don't know. I guess either.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's move along to the defense. First and foremost, I just wanted to commend the Orioles. There were no inside-the-park home runs allowed today on defense, and I don't know about you, but I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah, I feel great about that. You know who never allowed any inside-the-park home runs? That'd be Brady Anderson, who you should be tweeting pictures of, and a lot of shirtless pictures of Brady Anderson on Twitter right now. David Lowe, that's not the case, but the other guy that wore number 9, at least to my knowledge, I can't remember any. So, yeah, good to see.
I can't wait to get Jim Palmer on the air to tell how he never gave up an inside-the-park home run. From a serious note, do you have anything on the defensive side of the ball that was worth watching tonight?
To me, Nick Markakis gets the defensive game ball. Everybody's going to remember his diving catch on a fly ball that I believe, it was Mike Napoli that hit in the bottom of the 2nd for out number 2. Really, really solid defensive play by him. But he also had, in the 1st inning, a running kind of backhanded catch along the right field line, which these all look like F9 in the scorebook, but these are plays that are difficult to make. And I'm a stats guy. I know your Bird's Eye View co-host is a stats guy, and the defensive
don't encourage metrics, do not encourage.
The defensive metrics never say things good about Nick Markakis, but as guys that watch him every night, Jake, I mean it's hard for me to look at those numbers and think that they hold any weight because he's got to be an above-average right fielder. I mean, it just irks me.
Yeah, I go back and forth on Nick Markakis because, sometimes you see him make plays that are obviously more difficult than the average right fielder would make, and sometimes it just looks like he's got Matt Wieters on his back while he's getting there. He's got great placement. He takes pretty good routes. he seems to be in good position to make good plays, and he's athletic enough to flop his body around and hang onto the ball. And look, I'm not taking anything away from Nick Markakis, but I do feel like I run the risk, again, not really buying into defensive metrics, because with my love-hate relationship with metrics, defense is on the hate side of that. But I feel like I run the risk of playing homer when I say that Nick Markakis is a great right fielder, because I see him every day. I think that we should try to be as neutral as possible about it. We've seen really good things from him this season. I will certainly agree. Think about tonight. Think about Chicago when he took that home run ball away. Yeah. He's obviously a capable left fielder. The arm may not be elite like it was a couple of years ago, but it's still a dominant factor on whether or not people try to make that turn and go to second or third base. So, yeah, he was good tonight.
Another defensive play in my mind, Jake, that sticks out is in the bottom of the fifth, a fly ball hit between Ryan Flaherty and Alejandro De Aza to load the bases off the bat of David Ortiz. De Aza was coming in, playing very, very deep in left field. Flaherty obviously running backwards to try to make sort of an over-the-shoulder catch. In my mind, De Aza, I don't know that he could have gotten to the ball, but that's his ball to catch. It obviously ended up not being too big a deal, but he's got to call off Flaherty, who's, just not going to make that play.
Sure. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Flaherty was coming from double play depth as well, so he was not in a great position to get there. If he had been shaded over towards the hole, maybe it was a different thing. I hear you that it's De Aza's ball, and I understand that, but I really think that if we were trying to assign blame for this situation that did not end up burning us in the end, I think the blame's got to go to Chris Tillman. In a situation like that, the ball's got to be on the ground, and instead it was a dying quail, and it landed, it was hit where they weren't. So right. I'm not really sure I hold either accountable for the fact that it fell between them, because it was not a gimme.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And he got that ground ball on the next guy, so it ended up working out in their favor. The Red Sox seemed to really help them out all night long, it seemed like.
Absolutely. We'll get to the ninth inning in a little bit. I wanted to point out something that I saw in the fifth. I think it was the fifth inning, that Adam Jones did a great job of backing up second base on a botched pickoff attempt at second. Ryan Flaherty did a Superman dive to try to grab the ball as it was thrown from the mound, but it skidded off into center field. Adam Jones was right there. He was in the right position. He was in on the play, and it's easy to beat up on Adam Jones when you see him blowing the bubbles and all that stuff, and people wonder if he's a Gold Glove center fielder, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he was doing all the little things tonight, and that was a good example.
Yeah, and the effort, I feel like, is always there from Jones. I know. It's something that I think can never be questioned. So it's really good to see the guy who's got the $85 million contract doing the little things like that, and coming up in big key moments.
Sure. And last, but certainly not least for the defense, at least from me, was that play in the ninth inning that made me pee a little. It was a relay that ended up going poorly until the Red Sox ran themselves into an out.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just hoping that we don't see more defense like that, unless we're going to play another terrible team like the Red Sox.
Yeah, again, I go back to this sort of spring training type feel of this game, and look at that play and think, what is Bogaerts doing? Why is he running home? And Gary Thorne didn't hold back on the team. It's just a bad base running decision. So the Red Sox helping the Orioles out in that case. The Orioles coming up, you still got to make the play defensively, and they did just that. But Bogaerts really helping them out in that instance.
It was Alexi Casilla-esque base running, and missing from that play was the Benny Hill theme.
Yes.
All right. Did I miss anything from the defensive side of the ball, or can we move on to pitching?
Let's go to pitching.
All right. From the pitching, I feel like we got the tale of two Tillmans tonight. You are spot on when you talk about his efficiency, and his pitch count was really the thing that did him in more than anything else. But he was cruising. Tillman was cruising through 3 and 2/3 innings, and then he gave up that solo home run in the fourth. he was doing real well, and there were a lot of good things that he was doing. The other side of that, though, was that he totally hit the wall in the fifth, and the at-bats became extended, and he started losing guys. A lot of 3-2 counts. It was just it was night and day, I thought.
Yeah, and that's my concern, and it's not a real serious concern. But this is a bad team that he's facing. This is a bad lineup, a team that's not playing for anything anymore, and you'd like to see him kind of work out of that jam and get a little bit deeper, especially as the guy that should be the game one guy. I know Miguel Gonzalez is pitching like it, but Chris Tillman, I feel like we can all agree has kind of earned that spot. So you kind of want to hopefully chalk it up to not even a bad outing. I can't even call this a bad outing because it's 1 run in 5 innings, but you want to see him be a little more efficient the next time out there.
Sure. Well, he did get that all-important stat, the pitcher win. So, it couldn't have been that awful, right?
That's right. Yeah, he's got a W next to his name. Couldn't have been that bad.
One of the things I noticed from Chris Tillman is that his curveball was really effective at times tonight, and I feel like in the last couple starts he's been playing with that curveball a lot more than he has. It seems to be working for him a lot more frequently than it had been earlier on the season. And when it's on, it's a devastating pitch. It's tough to adjust to. It's that big 12-6 looping curveball that maybe you don't see so much anymore. And he really had it working at times tonight. Again, when he was the good Chris Tillman, that was really nice to see. And then the other thing is that he had that blow-away speed, maybe not in the upper 90s or anything like that, but he was challenging well off the curveball, which I thought was an effective weapon for him.
Yeah, definitely. That is the pitch. I mean, that's the key. So that is an encouraging sign from this 5-inning W, as you mentioned.
Also, with Chris Tillman, he got his personal catcher again this evening in Nick Hundley. I guess that's a thing that we're doing now.
I guess so. I know that sort of started to be the trend that we were kind of asking about here recently, and we see it again. So I don't know. Hey, man, if he's comfortable with him, run him out there.
Fair enough. All right, a quick jaunt through the Orioles bullpen. A highlight for me, this could have been my highlight, was that Evan Meek did not blow up. There was a time when Evan Meek was just rock solid in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
There was a point in the season where he was just atrocious, and I haven't been able to quite shake that when I see Evan Meek come into the game. So he was in, and it wasn't Kevin Gregg-esque, and I guess I'll take that.
Oh yeah, well, totally fair analysis. This is a guy I'm really rooting for. It's a story that I really liked at the beginning of the year, so I'm encouraged by it. An inning and 2/3, 1 hit. I did walk a guy and strike out a guy, but yeah, no blow up. So lower that ERA. It's down to 6.75 now, Jake.
I do think it was gracious of you to call my comparing him to Kevin Gregg analysis. I will say that was courteous. We'll say that. He was serviceable, and he did make things a little interesting for the next pitcher that came in, but that was Andrew Miller, who I thought was very sharp. He got out of the inning and came back out and did something which I thought was very important. He played the role of Brian Mattis against David Ortiz and got the strikeout.
Yeah, that's always big to see. I don't care how bad the Red Sox are or how down David Ortiz is. That's always a tough role to play. And to me, 7 of the 11 pitches to record 2 outs, 7 of which were strikes, 2 Ks. You got to love everything you saw from Miller tonight against his former club.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, actually, I did not think about that. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think of him as an Oriole now, which is a good thing. But that must have been a whirlwind of emotions for him.
Yeah, I mean, probably so. I'm sure that the adrenaline was pumping being back at Fenway Park.
Sure. Well, half-empty crowd. I'm sure it wasn't that big a deal. One of the things the Masson broadcast brought up, which I thought was interesting. They got a quote out from Ben McDonald, who apparently had provided some a scouting report on Anthony Renato, the pitcher for the Red Sox tonight, and he was spot on, right down to predicting that Adam Jones would hit a home run off of him. He did not have a good start tonight, but you can see that's probably a guy that can be in a major league rotation moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was really cool to see, by the way. Ben McDonald with some psychic analysis, it seemed like, there after seeing that quote. So that was awesome. Awesome to see him predict Jones go yard. So, yeah, maybe the Orioles want to hire him to do a little bit of advanced scouting in some games in October.
I tell you what, I really do miss him in the booth. I thought he was really
Me too,
insightful
man.
on WBAL when he was filling in, and I hope that there are more opportunities to get him involved because I
Me
really
too.
do think that his experience and also just his personality brings a lot of things to the booth. So that's my plug for Ben McDonald. If you're listening. Lastly, before we get away from it, I wanted to get your thoughts on Zach Britton and how his outing was tonight.
Not terrible. I mean, you walk 23 pitches, a few more than I would like to see from him in this, but getting the job done. It's hard for me to complain. Him picking up his 34th save, but you would like to see him avoid putting guys on via the walk. Hits are going to happen. I mean, he's a pitch to contact guy, but yeah, you'd like to see the free passes eliminated.
Yeah, they're not all going to be pretty. That's the other thing to keep in mind. And Zach Britton is going to have his struggles. He's also going to have his saves or his outings where things don't go well, but at the same time, we manage to scrape out of it. You mentioned my colleague Scott Magnus from the Bird's Eye View podcast. He put out a blog, I think it was on BSR, where he broke down Zach Britton as compared to some of the other Orioles relievers like Darren O'Day and Andrew Miller, and said that he's not really even the prototypical starter, and might not even closer, and might not even be the best suited for the closer's position on this team when you look at all the peripherals. And people beat Scott up for that a little bit, but yeah. I think you saw that tonight. Occasionally you're going to get this somewhat Jim Johnson-esque, dancing around a close, and we're just going to have to, make peace with that. But again, we're picking, but something to watch, I think, for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs.
And I think Scott's point in that post, which I think is that the Orioles acquired a guy who's much more prototypical closer in that spot. I know he hasn't been, but it sort of seemed like Andrew Miller. I mean, had he still been in Boston right now, I know Koji's out of the role in Boston, guarantee Andrew Miller would be pitching in the ninth. And what you saw from him tonight is a perfect example of why he could be that guy in Baltimore. I mean, much more efficient. He's a strikeout guy, which is kind of what you want to see to end the game. So I'm still sticking with Scott on that one. I think he was right.
All right. Well, hopefully we can re-sign that Andrew Miller guy next season. He enjoys winning the World Series with the Orioles, and then we have a closer controversy. How about that?
It's a good controversy to have.
All right. Have I missed anything from the pitching side of things?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then let's get your bottom line takeaway from this game.
Well, I mean, again, the magic number shrinking, the lead increasing, the Yankees losing, falling to third place, as you point out. Man, this game dragged on, though. Really felt like a spring game. Red Sox don't have much to play for. The Orioles just in a groove. Keep rolling, I guess. Keep rolling. These games are not going to be necessarily the most exciting as they continue on against teams that have less and less to play for. But good to pick up the W. Good to get that spring feeling out of here and go play one more tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think if I had to take a bottom line takeaway from this game, it's that if we're going to do nothing but play the AL East to finish our schedule, man, it's nice that this is the year that the AL East is down. We've heard the demise of the AL East has just been terrible, and they're bad teams. And the Orioles are only in first place because it's a bad division and all that other good stuff. You know what? That's fine. I'll take it.
Sure.
You never heard any complaints about the Yankees or the Red Sox feasting on the terrible Orioles and Rays and occasionally Blue Jays. You know what? We'll take it.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. Yep, absolutely. And think about when we saw this schedule. You think about when the schedule got released because we're looking ahead to 2015, and you look at September, sitting here last year, thinking, "Wow, all those AL East brutal. What is Major League Baseball doing?" But it worked out in the Orioles' favor this time, so we'll take it as it worked out in 2014.
Yeah. Well, the Orioles have won this series. They go for the sweep tomorrow at 1:35. Kind of a weird time to have a game on a Wednesday. I guess maybe it's getaway day for the Red Sox. The Orioles do have the day off on Thursday, but it will be Wei-Yin Chen versus Brandon Workman. And, hey, just keep padding those wins. bring down that magic number and go into New York with a chance to do some damage as far as putting themselves in the driver's seat.
Yeah, without a doubt. Weird 135 game, like you mentioned, but good to get that extra time off. Much deserved. Looking forward to seeing Wei Yin Chen on the mound. He's my guy. I'm a big fan of him, and hope he continues pitching well here in September, where it seemed like he'd kind of gotten tired the past couple of years. You want to see that momentum kind of carry over as they head down the stretch into October.
All right, well, this is it. This is the last homestand of the regular season. The Orioles are going to play some important games. At some point, they're going to clinch the AL East. We talked about this week on Bird's Eye View after I whined and complained on Twitter last week. Do something about the attendance, Birdland. Do not make me watch these games with a half-empty Camden Yards as being historic in 2014. It would be really disappointing to see the lack of support from the team now that they're from the fans. Now the team is actually holding up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good conversation, and I expect to see it pick up as it gets closer. I think the fans are definitely supportive, and the team across the street's making it much more enticing to get out there to Camden Yards. So
that they are. What a weird world this 2014 season has been all
really
around.
Really bizarre.
Well, that's my attention whoring self a plug for Bird's Eye View podcast that came out the other day. Make sure that you catch it over at BaltimoreSportsReport.com/network. We talk with Andrew Stecca of Utah Street Report about that attendance issue. Scott and I get a little too honest, perhaps, at the end, and there's some talk about David Lowe's abs. Just your standard fare for Orioles podcast. What about BSR? I know that you had an episode drop this week. What can people look for?
3% body fat for David Lowe, by the way. That's my stat of the year. BSR podcast this week, very, very heavy on the Ray Rice stuff. If you're tired of hearing about it, probably don't want to listen. But we we break it all down. Sam Njoku from CBS Baltimore joins us sort of right after the news broke on Monday. So we dive into that. And, of course, we're heavy on baseball because we're baseball guys. So you can check that out as well on BSR.
Great stuff. Well, all right. The Orioles win. It's only a matter of time. They're going to win this AL East, and there will be October baseball in Baltimore. You heard it here, not even first. In any event, for Zach Wilt of Baltimore Sports Report, I'm Jake English. Have a good one, and we'll see you on Thursday.